I'm divorcing you. I'm divorcing you. I found someone richer and more handsome in America. Don't contact me anymore. That WhatsApp message appeared on my phone at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday while I was calibrating precision instruments in my lab. My name is Dmitry Volkov. I'm 41 years old, and I've been working as a senior optical engineer for Meditech Solutions in Prague for the past 9 years. The message came with a photo attachment. My wife Anastasia wrapped around some guy in an expensive suit. Both of them standing in front of what looked like a Manhattan penthouse view. He had perfect teeth, styled hair, and the kind of watch that costs more than my annual salary. He treats me like the princess I deserve to be. Unlike you, the next message read. I'm already living with him in New York. The apartment here is worth more than our entire neighborhood. I set my phone down next to the laser calibration equipment, my hands surprisingly steady. 15 years of marriage, and she tells me through a text message between smartphone notifications. No phone call, no explanation, just a WhatsApp bomb dropped while I was adjusting optical sensors for medical devices that save lives. I picked up the phone and typed back, "Congratulations on your upgrade." Then I locked the screen and went back to work. But something was already stirring beneath the surface. Not just hurt or anger, but something colder. Something more calculated. You see, Anastasia had made one critical mistake in her rush to trade up for a richer man. She had no idea who she was really married to. For 9 years, I'd been the quiet engineer who fixed things and kept his head down. What she didn't know was that before Meditech, I'd spent 5 years in industrial espionage consulting, tracking down corporate theft and financial fraud for major European companies. I knew how to find things people didn't want found. I knew how to follow money trails. And I knew how to turn someone's own greed against them. Anastasia thought she'd found her golden ticket to the American dream. She was about to discover that some tickets come with a very expensive price. Anastasia and I met at an international conference in Vienna back in 2009. I was presenting new fiber optic technologies for medical imaging, and she was working as a translator for Russian business delegates. She was stunning, the kind of woman who could command attention just by walking into a room. Dark hair, sharp intelligence, and an ambition that burned like a furnace. She was everything I wasn't. Where I was methodical and quiet, she was spontaneous and bold. Where I found satisfaction in solving technical problems, she dreamed of luxury and status. We got married after a year-long courtship that felt like a whirlwind. She moved from Moscow to Prague, learned Czech with impressive speed, and seemed genuinely happy building a life with me. For the first few years, everything worked. My salary at Meditech was good by Prague standards. We had a comfortable apartment in Vinohrady, took vacations to Croatia, and talked about maybe buying a house outside the city. Anastasia started a small import business, bringing Russian luxury goods to Czech boutiques. She was smart, driven, and I was proud of what she'd built. But Prague was never enough for her. She'd scroll through Instagram, showing me photos of influencers in Dubai, businesswomen in London, Russian oligarchs' wives shopping in Paris. "Look how they live, Dmitry," she'd say. "This is what success really looks like." I understood her ambition, but I thought what we had was good. I was wrong. What I didn't realize was that for Anastasia, good was the enemy of great. Comfortable was the enemy of wealthy. And a senior engineer in Prague, no matter how skilled, would never be enough when compared to the millionaires she saw on social media. The first red flag should have been when she started talking about expanding her business internationally. Suddenly, she needed to make trips to New York to meet potential suppliers and establish American connections. These trips became more frequent, more expensive, and strangely vague when I asked for details. Little did I know she was shopping for my replacement. Our wedding in 2010 was small but perfect. Anastasia's parents flew in from Moscow, and my colleagues from Meditech attended. We held the ceremony in a historic venue in Prague's Old Town, and for one day, Anastasia glowed with genuine happiness. She wore a designer dress that cost more than my monthly salary, but I didn't mind. Seeing her that radiant made every koruna worth it. The early years were the best of my life. Anastasia threw herself into learning Czech culture while maintaining her Russian roots. She'd cook borscht on Sundays and goulash on Wednesdays. Our apartment became a fascinating blend of Slavic traditions and modern European style. She decorated with expensive taste but somehow made it feel warm rather than cold. Her import business started modestly, a few high-end Russian jewelry pieces sold to Prague boutiques. But Anastasia had a natural talent for understanding what wealthy Czech women wanted. Within 2 years, she was importing luxury handbags, exclusive vodkas, and even some rare Russian art pieces. I admired her business instincts. What I didn't see coming was how success would change her perspective on our life together. The more money her business made, the more she began comparing our lifestyle to others. She'd show me articles about Russian businessmen in London, tech entrepreneurs in San Francisco, real estate moguls in Manhattan. "We could live like this, Dmitri," she'd say. "We just need to think bigger." I tried to explain that my work was important. Medical optical systems aren't just about money. They save lives. The fiber optic cancer detection systems I helped develop were being used in hospitals across Europe. But to Anastasia, impact without wealth was just another form of failure. The breaking point came when her Moscow friend Svetlana married a German hedge fund manager. Suddenly, Anastasia's Instagram feed was filled with photos of Svetlana's new life: private jets, Swiss ski resorts, diamond jewelry that cost more than our apartment. "She's not smarter than me," Anastasia would mutter, scrolling through the photos. "She just made better choices." That's when the American business trip started. Market research, she called them. Building connections for the future. I supported her ambition completely. I even helped fund those first trips to New York, believing I was investing in our shared future. Instead, I was financing her search for a richer husband. The changes started subtly about 18 months ago. Anastasia's New York trips, which had begun as quarterly business ventures, became monthly necessities. Each trip lasted longer, cost more, and somehow yielded fewer concrete business results. When I asked about specific contracts or partnerships, she'd become vague. "The American market is complex, Dmitri," she'd say. "These relationships take time to develop properly." But other things were changing too. Anastasia started paying extraordinary attention to her appearance before these trips. New clothes appeared in our wardrobe, designer pieces with tags from brands I'd never heard of, but that clearly cost serious money. When I asked about them, she'd claim they were investment pieces for networking events. The phone calls started bothering me most. Anastasia had always been social, but suddenly she was taking calls in the bathroom, on the balcony, anywhere I couldn't overhear. When I walked into rooms, conversations would end abruptly. Text messages were deleted immediately after reading. "Just business contacts," she'd explain when I noticed her phone habits. "Americans prefer texting to emails." 3 months ago, our joint bank account started showing unusual patterns. Large withdrawals always coincided with her travel dates, but the amounts were far beyond what any reasonable business trip would require. When I asked about a €3,000 withdrawal, she claimed it was for product samples and market research materials. The biggest red flag was her sudden interest in our financial situation. Anastasia had never cared about investment details before, but suddenly she wanted to know everything about my retirement accounts, our apartment's value, even the specifics of Czech divorce law. She disguised these questions as casual conversation, but they felt calculated. "I just want to understand our security better," she'd say when I questioned her curiosity. "What if something happened to you?" Last month, she asked me to add her name to our apartment deed. "For protection," she explained. "If I'm contributing to the household, I should have legal security too." I told her I'd consider it, which was apparently the wrong answer. Her next New York trip was booked the following week. The final warning sign was how happy she seemed when preparing for that last trip. Not excited about business opportunities, but genuinely glowing, like someone anticipating a reunion with a lover rather than meetings with clients. I still didn't want to believe what my engineering mind was telling me. The patterns were clear, but I loved her too much to accept the obvious conclusion. That WhatsApp message forced me to face reality, but I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with. I spent the night after receiving Anastasia's divorce announcement doing what I do best: systematic analysis. I pulled up 18 months of bank statements, credit card bills, and transaction records. What I found made my blood run cold. Our joint accounts showed a pattern of financial manipulation that was both sophisticated and brazen. Every trip to New York had been funded by increasingly large withdrawals, but the money wasn't just covering travel expenses. The credit card statements revealed the real story. Expensive restaurants for 2 people, luxury hotel suites, shopping sprees at Tiffany and Cartier, even payments to what appeared to be a Manhattan real estate broker. Anastasia hadn't just been cheating, she'd been using our money to audition for a new life. But the most damaging discovery was in our investment accounts. 3 weeks earlier, while I'd been working late on a critical project deadline, someone had attempted to liquidate my retirement portfolio. The transaction had been blocked because it required in-person verification, but the attempt was documented. Anastasia had been planning to drain everything before announcing her departure. I called our bank the next morning. The customer service representative was professionally helpful but devastating in his information. Yes, Mr. Volkov, there have been several inquiries about account access and transfer procedures over the past few months, all initiated with proper login credentials. The biggest shock came when I reviewed our apartment insurance policy. 2 months ago, Anastasia had contacted our insurance company asking about coverage in case of my accidental death. She'd claimed she was updating our records for financial planning purposes. Financial planning indeed. She'd been planning for my financial death while I was alive. The email trail on our shared computer revealed even more. Anastasia had been researching divorce laws in both Czech Republic and New York, specifically focusing on international asset division. She'd even consulted with a Prague lawyer about her rights to marital property if she established residency in America. Most crushing of all were the browser history entries: how to leave husband for richer man, international divorce asset protection, Czech engineer salary versus American businessman income. She'd been methodically planning my replacement while I was designing medical equipment to save lives. The woman I'd loved and supported had reduced our marriage to a cost-benefit analysis, and I'd come up short. The next morning, I made a decision that would change everything. Instead of wallowing in self-pity, I was going to use every skill I'd acquired during my years in industrial espionage to uncover the full truth. Anastasia had betrayed the wrong engineer. My first call was to Viktor Stransky, a former colleague from my consulting days, who now ran a discreet investigation firm in Prague. "Dmitri," he said when I explained the situation, "you know I owe you favors from the Barano corporate theft case. Let's find out who your wife really is." Within 48 hours, Victor had traced Anastasia's digital footprint across multiple platforms. What he found was a systematic deception that went far deeper than a simple affair. Anastasia had been maintaining 2 completely separate online identities. One as a modest Prague businesswoman married to an engineer, and another as a sophisticated single entrepreneur seeking partnership opportunities with wealthy American investors. The second identity was fascinating in its calculated dishonesty. She'd created social media profiles showing herself at exclusive Prague events, wearing designer clothes I'd never seen, driving cars we didn't own. She'd photoshopped herself into luxury settings and claimed to be the sole owner of her import business, erasing any mention of being married. Victor also uncovered financial records I couldn't access. Anastasia had opened a secret bank account in her maiden name, where she'd been depositing money siphoned from our joint accounts over the past year. The account showed regular transfers to what appeared to be an American account. "She's been funding someone else's lifestyle," Victor explained, showing me the transaction patterns. Monthly payments of $2,000 to $3,000, all going to a New York account. "This isn't just an affair, Dmitri. She's been playing sugar mama to someone." But Victor's most valuable discovery was the identity of Anastasia's new target. His name was Bradley Hampstead III, heir to a Connecticut real estate fortune, and according to public records, he was exactly the kind of man Anastasia had been dreaming about. Wealthy, connected, and surprisingly naive about European women seeking American husbands. The irony was beautiful. While Anastasia thought she'd found her golden ticket, Victor's research revealed that Bradley was actually the black sheep of his family, recently cut off from the family trust due to gambling debts and poor business decisions. His Manhattan lifestyle was funded entirely by credit and loans secured against his dwindling inheritance. Anastasia had fallen for a rich man's son who was broke while planning to steal money from a working engineer who had real assets. She'd traded up to a prettier lie. Armed with Victor's intelligence, I contacted the best divorce lawyer in Prague, Dr. Elena Novakova, who specialized in international divorce cases involving financial misconduct. Her office overlooking the Vltava River was impressive, but what impressed me more was how quickly she grasped the complexity of my situation. "Mr. Volkov," she said after reviewing Victor's documentation, "your wife has made several critical legal errors. By moving to America and cohabitating with another man while still married to you, she's created grounds for fault-based divorce. Combined with the financial misconduct, this gives us significant leverage." Dr. Novakova explained that Czech divorce law was particularly strict about marital asset protection when one spouse commits adultery while systematically depleting joint resources. She can't claim half of everything while stealing money to fund her affair. The law doesn't reward thieves. Our strategy became multi-pronged. First, we would immediately freeze all joint accounts to prevent further unauthorized withdrawals. Second, we'd file for divorce in Czech Republic before Anastasia could establish legal residency in America, ensuring favorable jurisdiction. Third, we'd demand full asset disclosure and reimbursement for misappropriated funds. But I had additional resources that most betrayed husbands lack. My background in corporate investigation had taught me about asset protection, and my technical skills gave me advantages in gathering digital evidence. While Dr. Novakova handled the legal framework, I began securing our marital assets. I contacted our bank and implemented fraud protection protocols on all accounts. Any future access attempts would require in-person verification with photo ID. I changed passwords on all our shared financial accounts and set up monitoring alerts for any attempted access. The apartment required more sophisticated protection. I contacted a real estate lawyer and began the process of documenting Anastasia's abandonment of the marital home. In Czech law, a spouse who leaves the country to live with another person can forfeit their claim to shared property, but the abandonment must be legally documented. Most importantly, I started building an irrefutable timeline of Anastasia's deception. Victor's investigation had provided the foundation, but I needed court-quality evidence of her systematic betrayal. Every financial transaction, every lie, every secret account, everything would be documented with forensic precision. Anastasia thought she was playing chess against a simple engineer. She was about to discover she was actually facing someone who'd spent years dismantling sophisticated criminal enterprises. Victor's deeper investigation revealed the most shocking truth of all. Anastasia's betrayal wasn't impulsive. It was a methodically planned operation that had been in development for over 2 years. The evidence was stunning in its calculated cruelty. We discovered email chains between Anastasia and her Moscow friend Svetlana, dating back to early 2023. The conversations, written in Russian, revealed a detailed strategy for upgrading to wealthier husbands. Svetlana had apparently coached Anastasia on targeting American businessmen, providing specific advice on presentation, networking events, and even psychological manipulation techniques. "Americans love the exotic Russian woman fantasy," Svetlana had written, "but you must make them believe you're successful independently. Rich men don't want desperate wives. They want trophies who chose them." The emails contained detailed financial analysis of my assets versus potential American targets. Anastasia had calculated my net worth, including retirement accounts and property, then systematically researched American millionaires who attended Manhattan networking events. She'd created spreadsheets comparing potential returns on investment from different men. Bradley Hampstead had been selected not for love, but because his family name and apparent wealth made him the highest value target she could realistically access. The emails revealed her disappointment that she couldn't attract truly wealthy men, settling for Bradley as the best available option for someone like me. But the most devastating discovery was a voice message Anastasia had sent to Svetlana just 3 weeks before her divorce announcement. Victor had recovered it from a deleted conversation thread. "Dmitri is so boring, always talking about his medical devices and saving lives. Bradley shows me what real success looks like. Next week I'll tell the engineer it's over and start my real life." She'd also been planning to claim that I was abusive, creating fake evidence of our troubled marriage to justify her abandonment. Photos of herself crying were staged for social media, along with cryptic posts about finding the strength to leave toxic situations. The most infuriating element was her financial timeline. Anastasia had planned to drain our accounts right before revealing her affair, leaving me with debt while she established herself in New York with stolen money. She'd calculated exactly how much she could take without triggering immediate bank alerts. What she hadn't calculated was that her boring engineer husband had skills that went far beyond calibrating optical equipment. Every email, every fake photo, every manipulative strategy, all of it was now documented evidence that would destroy her in court. With overwhelming evidence gathered, Dr. Novakova and I executed what she called the perfect legal ambush. We would file for divorce in Prague immediately, citing adultery and financial misconduct, while simultaneously pursuing criminal charges for theft and fraud. The timing was crucial. Anastasia believed she controlled the situation from New York, thinking she could file for divorce in America under more favorable laws. She had no idea that Czech jurisdiction took precedence since we were married here, and I had never abandoned residency. Our first move was freezing all marital assets. Dr. Novakova filed emergency motions with Prague courts, presenting evidence of Anastasia's systematic theft and abandonment. Within 48 hours, every joint account was frozen, preventing any further unauthorized access. Next, I contacted Meditech's legal department and explained my situation. Corporate espionage investigation was still part of their security services, and they agreed to provide technical support for documenting digital evidence. Suddenly, I had access to forensic IT specialists who could verify every deleted email and hidden transaction. The criminal complaint was filed simultaneously with divorce proceedings. Czech law treats the systematic depletion of marital assets as theft, especially when combined with adultery. Anastasia would face potential criminal charges in addition to losing everything in divorce court. But my most satisfying move was financial. I contacted our apartment insurance company and reported Anastasia's abandonment of the property. Under Czech law, this allowed me to remove her from all policies and establish sole legal occupancy. She could no longer claim any right to our home. I also reached out to the companies Anastasia claimed as business partners. Most had never heard of her, revealing that her successful import business was largely fictional. The few legitimate contracts she had were actually in my name as co-signer, giving me the right to dissolve them. The trap was elegantly simple. While Anastasia was posting Instagram photos of her luxurious new life with Bradley, she was actually becoming legally and financially homeless. Every asset she thought she could claim was being systematically removed from her reach. Dr. Novakova's final stroke of genius was involving international authorities. Since Anastasia had used fraudulent documentation to establish her American banking, U.S. immigration services were notified of her questionable visa status. Her dream of permanent American residency was about to become a deportation nightmare. The quiet engineer was taking his wife to school. 2 weeks after implementing our strategy, my phone rang at 11 p.m. Prague time. Anastasia's voice was panicked and desperate, completely different from the confident woman who'd sent me divorce papers via WhatsApp. "Dmitry, what are you doing? I can't access any of our accounts." "Our accounts?" I replied calmly. "You divorced me, remember? You're living with a richer, more handsome man now. Why would you need access to a boring engineer's money? This is insane. You can't just freeze everything. I have rights." "You had rights. You gave them up when you moved another man into an apartment paid for with stolen money. By the way, how is Bradley handling the news that his trust fund has been frozen for gambling debts?" The silence told me Victor's latest intelligence was accurate. Bradley's family had discovered his relationship with a married woman and cut off his remaining financial support. The Manhattan penthouse was actually a rental he could no longer afford. "We can work this out," Anastasia said, her voice smaller now. "Come to New York. We can negotiate privately without lawyers." "I'm not going anywhere. You're coming back to Prague to face criminal charges for theft and fraud. The Czech police have a very interesting case file with your name on it." "Criminal charges? You can't be serious." 18 months of systematically stealing marital assets to fund an affair. That's theft under Czech law. The prosecutor is very interested in your case. 3 weeks later, Anastasia was sitting across from me in a Prague courtroom, her designer clothes looking out of place in the sterile legal environment. Bradley was nowhere to be seen. Apparently, his love didn't extend to international criminal proceedings. Dr. Novakova presented our evidence methodically. Bank records, email chains, fake social media posts, the secret account, and detailed documentation of every lie Anastasia had told. The judge listened with increasing incredulity as the scope of her deception became clear. Anastasia's Prague lawyer tried to argue emotional abandonment, claiming she'd left because our marriage was loveless. The argument collapsed when Dr. Novakova presented the voice messages, where Anastasia laughed about my boring dedication to saving lives through medical technology. The verdict was swift and comprehensive. Not only would Anastasia receive nothing in the divorce, but she owed me 847,000 Czech koruna in restitution for stolen assets, plus legal fees. The criminal charges resulted in a suspended sentence and permanent restriction from accessing any of my financial accounts. The final humiliation came when immigration authorities revoked her U.S. visa for fraudulent documentation. Anastasia was deported back to Prague with no money, no apartment, and no wealthy American boyfriend to fund her lifestyle. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my newly renovated apartment in Vinohrady, which is now entirely mine. The space feels different without Anastasia's expensive decorations and constant social media photo shoots. It feels peaceful. Dr. Novakova called last week with an update on the financial settlement. Anastasia has managed to pay back about 200,000 koruna by selling the jewelry she'd bought with stolen money and borrowing from her Moscow family. The rest will come in monthly payments over the next 5 years, if she can find steady employment. Victor's latest report indicated that she's working at a Prague hotel, translating for Russian tourists. Apparently, Bradley never responded to her messages after the deportation, and her Moscow friend Svetlana is no longer taking her calls. The network of women scheming to upgrade their husbands doesn't offer much support when the plan fails spectacularly. My work at Meditech has been going exceptionally well. The medical optical systems I helped develop are now being used in hospitals across 3 continents, and I was recently promoted to lead a new research division. There's something deeply satisfying about building technology that actually saves lives, rather than just accumulating wealth to impress people on social media. I've started dating again. Nothing serious yet, but it's refreshing to meet women who are interested in genuine conversation rather than asset evaluation. My new rule is simple. Anyone who asks about my financial situation within the first 3 dates gets politely eliminated from consideration. Sometimes I wonder if Anastasia learned anything from this experience. Probably not. Some people never realize that character matters more than bank balances, and that actions have consequences that can't be Instagram filtered away. The funny thing is, she really could have been a princess if she'd stayed. Not the material princess she dreamed of becoming, but something better. A woman married to a man who actually loved her and would have given her anything she needed. Instead, she traded a genuine partner for a fantasy that turned into a nightmare. Her last WhatsApp message to me was 3 months ago. "I'm sorry, Dmitry. I made a terrible mistake." I deleted it without responding. Some mistakes are too expensive to forgive, and some people aren't worth a second chance. I'm building a better life now, and this